we want to talk about what comes next for our major I-95 cities. So I don't want to do this all alone. I'm going to bring in AccuWeather lead long-range expert Paul Pastelok so we can go through what comes next for the season. Paul, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Christine. Glad to be here.
Of course. Always happy to have you. Let's start with this. Let's go through the cities and when we should see, according to the historical average, that first snowfall of the year.
Yeah, well, you look at the averages and, most time like Boston and you're looking at probably about the end of November, early December when you get your first snowfall. And then farther down the 95 corridor, it's more like middle of December, Washington, D.C., mid to late December. But you just have to go back to last year and we were way, way beyond these averages. In fact, New York City not seeing their first measurable snowfall until February 1st. So the averages, we were way off last year. Hopefully this year it comes in a little quicker.
Yeah, hopefully this year we can at least feel like winter for a minute. On that note, you know what, Paul, let's go city by city. We'll start out with Boston and go through what our folks in Boston can expect as we head into this winter. When, in theory, could we get that first snow?
Yeah, always, it's always hard to predict snowfall, but now trying to predict when the first measurable snowfall is going to be is very difficult as well. And it's not guessing. I mean, we look at research, we look at past years, and we're kind of concentrating on El Nino years. And what we've seen is kind of a mixed bag with El Nino years on when that first snow is going to happen. Now, we've had some sleet in the area today, and this is the concern. There's going to be two systems, one next Tuesday and one after that, that could bring a chance for some flurries, but I don't think it'll amount to too much. It's late November, early December. There's a big change in the pattern that I think takes place after Thanksgiving, and that could bring our first measurable snowfall in the Boston area.
Now let's go from Boston to New York. First of all, I'm sure that many folks around Boston would be very excited for a few flakes, and I think the folks maybe going for a wintertime stroll in Central Park might feel the same. What do you think, Paul? How's it looking in the city that never sleeps?
Well, New York City, again, their average is around mid-December. We're thinking more, again, you're going to be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, probably till like early to mid-January before we see some measurable snowfall. But the risk here is that even this month, there could be a couple of disturbances that slide down and it gets cold enough at night that you could get a little band of flurries or snow that gets close to the city. But I think that's going to be mainly north of the city that it does accumulate.
Now let's talk about further south. Cities like Philly, Washington, D.C., historically not quite as much snow as what we get in New York or, dare I say, Boston. Do we think that Philly's kind of on that same trend as we look through the next few weeks?
I think it looks better for this year, and as far as the next few weeks goes, I still think that they're going to be too far south to get any accumulating snow. It's just not going to be cold enough, I believe. Even though we're going to have some sneaky fronts come down from the north, I just don't think it's cold enough. It should be better this year from last year, of course, not getting hardly anything last year. But again, you got to watch late November, early December time period. I think that's more of a threat north. We're kind of still leaning towards probably later on into the winter season before we start seeing our measurable snow in Philadelphia.
All right, one last one for you, Paul. I'm going to keep grilling you for about one more minute here. Let's take you to the nation's capital where, look, in theory, we could see some snow this year. But gosh, last year, it's like we set the bar so low that any snow would be maybe a joy for people.
Well, this is actually the hardest one to forecast for because El Nino brings southern track storm systems. And so if we get enough cold, and that systems keep coming and coming and coming, it's going to be very risky. This is a very tough forecast. And so we have a near to above normal snowfall for, I could see more if we get 2 or 3 of these systems to come farther north. As far as the early time period, it's probably going to be sometime either, maybe you could get one in mid-December, but it's more likely as we get into January that we're going to start seeing things change.
Well, Paul, if I had to have someone on my team for a tough forecast, it's going to be you. All right, let's wrap things up here. Paul, always appreciate your insight as we look forward to the next season.
Hey.